Hello, yes, it totally hasn't been an entire year since the last part in this series. I wasn't planning on making a fifth part at first, but there were quite a lot of small details and other ideas I had for this series left over that I thought it'd be a good idea to compile them into a fifth miscellaneous video. That said, I never actually got around to making this because of Mario Kart 8's Deluxe's Booster Course Pass that was announced and completely destroyed this series. Looking back on all these videos, and with this one in particular, I have to say these act as more of ideas to a hypothetical Mario Kart game than actual predictions for the next game. This series in general is super outdated, like the idea of having 2 tracks as possible retro tracks, or just the idea that now with this DLC I struggle to imagine the next game being anything close to a vanilla sequel. Mario Kart is far too much of a system seller for Nintendo to just ditch, though, and considering that the Switch 2 is probably going to be backwards compatible, if not I'm boycotting Nintendo, surely they can't re-release the game again, right? They could do something like a definitive edition including all DLC or something, but that on its own won't sell as well as a standalone sequel. A new game is very overdue, and I have to imagine it would release close to the launch of the next console. That said, Nintendo have really blown their load with Mario Kart 8, specifically the DLC. Even with the subpar quality in mind, I don't think people are gonna look fondly towards an upcoming Mario Kart game if it were just a standard vanilla sequel, having less than half the cups. Even if I'd argue towards quality over quantity personally, it just won't appeal to a wide audience. People are naturally going to gravitate towards a game with 100 tracks over one with 32 or whatever, even if they're all super old and trash. I've been saying this for a while, but with the Booster Course Pass, it's been made especially obvious that the next game in the series is going to have to be radically different. I think a pretty appropriate direction they could take it in would be a Nintendo Kart or Smash Kart game. I think it's a simple but effective idea. I do think it could coexist with a last-gen Mario Kart game as well. But yeah, I guess this is all just a long-winded way of me saying this video series is extremely outdated, but yeah, whatever. I was sitting on these ideas I wanted to see for this imaginary Mario Kart 9, so here's a video on it. First, let's go over modes, which I never got around to discussing in my previous videos, outside battle mode I guess. For Grand Prix, I would love to see Nintendo go back to their roots rather than trying to replicate 8. The 3-star rankings in 8 are brain dead easy to obtain and don't really require any thought. It's just getting first place in every race, which I assume most people would be doing naturally, I guess outside of 200cc. Dumbing down the ranking system really invalidates performance in Grand Prix. I think it'd be great to reintroduce the harder ranking system from previous games. Specifically, games like DS and Wii are great fun because of it. Attempting triple star rankings are somewhat challenging and rewarding in those games. Rather than just being based on a score, it also incorporates time in first place, number of times spent out, staying on the road, etc, etc. I think bringing this system back would give far more replay value. And of course the bragging rights is a nice thing to have. On top of that, it would be great to see actual ceremony cutscenes return. It's definitely a staple of the series, and much better than the generic Mario Kart TV footage. I'd also love to see the failure ones too, although I've absolutely never seen one of those in person before because I'm just too good at Mario Kart. In terms of the actual Grand Prix modes, I'd like to see all the engine cups from 8 return, including 200cc of course. What I'd love to see outside of Grand Prix at least is to separate mirror mode from the other engine classes, to be able to play all engine classes of mirror mode, specifically 200cc. I'd also love to see an all-cup tour mode from Double Dash return, although I don't know how feasible that would be with a game like 8 Deluxe with 96 tracks. Whatever, just include it anyway, it's great, even if it takes 5 hours to play through. I'd also love to see Mario Kart 2's reversed courses included in a mainline game. It's such a simple but effective way to reuse tracks, but make them feel widely different. So the different modes for Grand Prix would be 50cc, 100cc, and 150cc as always, as well as 200cc, mirror mode, and reverse mode. Alternatively, another way of tackling Grand Prix would be adding a difficulty mode, which would just be the 4 different engine classes, and choosing between standard, mirror, and reverse cups. The next mode to touch on would be online. I don't think I'd change that much from 8 to be honest. There are some issues like with how it treats DLC, which I guess wouldn't be relevant to a new game anyway. The interface, specifically with how you play with friends and enter tournaments, could be made a little more intuitive, and also having a few more options like being able to just join lobbies with predetermined engine classes or modes, specifically 200cc only mode would be great. But that said, Mario Kart is probably Nintendo's only series that they've actually gotten the online for, right? So yeah, I wouldn't change much up. Touching on what I said with Grand Prix though, bringing back the star icons on your player like the previous games did would be lovely to see return, you know, to reward playing well in single player, and the whole bragging rights. I was always a little peeved about them removing it but keeping the gyro icon for some reason. The last mode I wanted to talk about is Mission Mode. It's such a great mode in theory, but it's sparsely included in Mario Kart games. Mario Kart Wii's online mode, which is long dead, kinda had missions, and Mario Kart Tour sort of, but that game sucks. The only game to have a proper mission mode is DS, and it's one of the many reasons why that game was so great, alongside, you know, the retro tracks, online, etc. I think going one step further and incorporating dedicated single-player mode a la Diddy Kong Racing or Crash Team Racing into the mission mode would make this hypothetical Mario Kart 9 the best of the series. In fact, if Nintendo were to play their cards right with that, it could possibly tackle the problem of having an unnecessary sequel that won't perform as well. Either way, even if it were just like DS's mode, I think it would still be pretty great. Having just one more additional mode is really nice to have considering how stretched for content Mario Kart games are compared to other kart races. I'd love to see bosses too, like of DS. It'd be great to see some from more recent Mario games to be included, like with Odyssey. So anyway, for Mario Kart 9 there'd be Grand Prix, Time Trials, Battle, Mission, and Online as the 5 major modes, alongside just regular racing of course. Now that we're done with the modes, there are a few other things I'd like to touch on, specifically the coins. First, I'd like to say I really like the idea of having different coins depending on what franchise the course is based on. I guess I didn't include any non-Mario characters or tracks in my previous videos, but we could still see banana coins for the Donkey Kong themed tracks. But what I mostly wanted to talk about was the coin system for the series. The coin mechanic or system introduced in Mario Kart 7 and brought into 8 is very lackluster, and for the most part useless. The coins in Super Mario Kart and Super Circuit actually had purpose because of the life system, which is obviously not present in the modern games, so I think for Mario Kart 9, if we're bringing back coins, they need to be improved. To be honest, if I had a choice, I'll just remove them entirely, but I still think there's a pretty simple but obvious thing you could include to actually give purpose to coins, and that is including an in-game store. Hopefully only using in-game coins only, not microtransactions. Rather than randomly unlocking different kart parts and characters depending on milestones of how many coins you've collected, you should be able to spend coins in a shop. First, not all characters should be unlocked through the shop, most of them should be unlocked through Grand Prix and Time Trial and etc. The shop still should include a few unlockable characters and perhaps different skins such as Gold Mario. Things like customizable emblems or icons for online gameplay could be purchasable. If Miis are brought back, maybe outfits and costumes for them. A primary thing you should be able to purchase from the shops would be carts. If kart parts are brought back, which personally I don't care for, different kart parts would cost differently. The body would cost more than the wheels and gliders for instance. On the notes of karts, I think it needs to be revamped a little. I've always really hated the kart roulette system in Mario Kart 7 and 8, particularly the wheels just make all the vehicles look awful. I really miss the older Mario Kart games, specifically Double Dash, DS, and Wii. They had very iconic karts and creative designs. I would heavily prefer if standard karts returned rather than the roulette. It would also be great if following DS if every character had their own unique kart. I do understand that the kart bodies in this game are more or less just the standard karts and you're customizing the wheels and gliders, the gliders of which you don't even see half the time. I guess if we were to keep the kart customization system, I'd rather it be altered just a little bit. So you select your vehicle as always from a pre-existing selection and then you can add on personalized glider and wheels on top if you wanted to, but that's not the default. I don't know if that really makes much of a difference though. I don't know, maybe I just have a really unpopular opinion anyway, but I've always hated the karts in 7 and 8. I guess also similar to the store I was mentioning, I really hate the way 8 went about unlockables. Especially 8 Deluxe where all the characters besides Gold Mario were unlocked from the get-go. I just think it drags the game's single player down for me. A big enjoyment factor for the previous Mario Kart games were unlocking all the characters, whether that be in Grand Prix, Time Trials, etc. Having everything like the karts and characters just be unlocked randomly like in 8's base game, I just don't like it at all. I really liked Mario Kart Wii's method of unlockables where everything had predetermined ways to unlock them, so just having a bit more variety to how you unlock everything would really help the game in my opinion, and would help the game seem less basic I guess. And finally for the Nitro tracks, I'd love to see tracks be directly inspired from actual Mario video games rather than random Mario themed levels. In particular, I loved how Mario Kart DS had Luigi's Mansion, TikTok Clock, and Delfino Plaza. Seeing tracks be brought in from games like Super Mario Galaxy and Odyssey would be great. But yeah, of course, only a handful of them, not every track needs to be directly taken from Mario games. So I guess that's everything. I probably forgot a thing or two, to be fair, but I'll leave it at that for now. In general, this is 100% my last Mario Kart 9 prediction video. I think I said that last time, but this time I actually mean it. I don't have anything else to add to my predictions, and even if I did, as I said at the start of the video, they're all outdated anyway. When an actual new Mario Kart or Nintendo racing game in general is announced, I will revisit this topic and make a new series, but until then, that's everything. So thanks for watching this, and especially thanks for watching every episode if you did. I'll put an annotation of the playlist on the video and a link in the description. Otherwise, see you later.